Hello, hi everyone. Thank you for coming here today on a very wet Thursday. We're going through a quite nice deep dive into pitching to brands and magazines and how I've done it and how I kind of had to learn myself and to do it. Um, so yeah, thanks for coming and hope you guys enjoy and learn. So Kiss, this is the first thing I'm gonna say is keep it simple, stupid. Um, it's really easy to get. I'm going to change that because it's very fast. It's very easy to get overwhelmed in how to talk, how to share your work to people. But, and what I will reference later is you just need to be as simple and clear on what you're doing and who you are. And that message will translate as clear as possible. It's simple. Keep it simple, stupid. It's something that I always stick with when I pitch and share work. So we're going to go through a little agenda. This is what we're going to do today. But any questions, I think, please feel free to jump out and say them. So we're starting off with who is me, grammatically incorrect sentence, but who cares? This is the work you're going to see here is all of it has been pitched and been shared. All of the work that I'm going to show you this section is stuff that I've sent out to people I found on platforms like Instagram, Red Bull, via emails, and little tricks that I've landed work that was pitched. So it could be anything from a story photographing rap in in Mumbai in India to photographing shows for artists like SD Kid and Fake Mink to photographing football fans across the Euros, and then that leading to football fans in Spain, to recently a pitch that landed me my first book deal, and this is exactly what I sent over to who is now my editor, Colin. This is how simple it can be. Mind you, that is that's a lot of words I've written, but in reality, to some pitches, it's very concise and very tight. To even an Instagram DM, which landed me years of work with a platform called Boiler Room. It could be as simple as that. Where to look. Where to look when I say this is who to look for and how to find contact information from these people. When we see platforms like LinkedIn, it's quite easy to be overwhelmed and kind of annoyed about how business like it is. But LinkedIn is a very easy way to find people that work in your favorite companies in across media, from Dazed, Vice, Nike. It's so easy to find these places because everyone, once they get into these platforms or jobs, needs to kind of be on LinkedIn, not only to show who they work for, but to kind of show off who they work for. That's how I see it. Platforms like Diced and Resident Advisor, if you came to my events workshop, you kind of will pick this up as well. But this is how I find information from more the music side of events and more music side of my work. I find who to contact from there and how to contact. To Instagram and Twitter, very I forget, very like everyday platforms that we all use, and everyone using these platforms will have work to share, like us photographers, but editors will share their work, and art directors and creative agents will share their work, and then using certain hashtags and keywords in the searches, it's really easy to find people using these platforms particularly. But wait, Uno reverse card here. Mind, I'm not a graphic designer, so I do apologize. This is something that I always share when I'm thinking of sharing work. If you're sharing work, why are you sharing it? Are you pitching a story? Do you have a portfolio to match that story? Then yes, please email out. And if you go to the other side, to the left side, is that if you're sharing work to an editor, for instance, Why ask yourself, why are you sharing work? Do you want, is your intention to get a job from this person or to share work from your portfolio? I always try to be as honest as possible. If I have an email for like the Guardian, for instance, I'm not gonna send anything without anything loaded with that email. I can send my work, but it's really easy to send your work and for that to be lost. But then what I consider is why I'm emailing this person, this editor. Do I have work to match that of what this editor's talking about or what this art director's sharing? Or is my work topical? If I'm photographing football fans and the World Cup is, of course, this year, that is quite topical. If I'm photographing the Olympics isn't until, or if I'm photographing sports in the Olympics isn't until 2 years next year. And that's not topical enough to share out to an editor, to a writer. So I always kind of like reiterate why I'm contacting the people in the first place before I send the message. But finding emails, how do you find them? Sorry, I try to be funny sometimes, you know. It's all in the research. It's all in platforms like I named before. Like if you find someone that you like on Instagram that works with a platform like Days Magazine, for instance, and if they have Days Magazine in their bio and they have their name in their bio on LinkedIn, on Instagram, you could use platforms like Hunter, which is this website here. For instance, this is a pre-recorded video, but I found somebody on DJ Mag, and what Hunter does, if I stop it here, Hunter pulls all of the emails out that it can digitally find online that's been uploaded online, and it basically shows you the email formatting of that email. So as long as you find the first and surname of that person, you would know how to format that email. For instance, if I play this again, so what this is doing is finding all of the emails that it can find on the internet using the DJ Mag domain. So it's finding all of the kind of like generic emails here, but then the people using these emails, you can reveal the email and see its first name at DJ Mag, and that is the chief operating officer. And this website is pretty crazy because you realize how open source emails are in without any gatekeeping. It's just there, and everyone can use Hunter. And I strongly suggest you do, because then from this you can, what this does in fact is you find the email format, first name at DJ Mag, and then you find the people that you want to look for. And this is me using LinkedIn, and I'm looking for everyone that works with DJ Mag. And I'm like, oh, cool, DJ Mag. I'm looking at all the people, and oh, I found the person that I think is best representing to me at DJ Mag, which was this person called Ewan Murray, who is the did it again, who is the digital editor at DJ Mag. And from that, I found his first name and surname, and then found a way to email him because then his surname and first name is at the DJ Mag email. That makes sense? Great. Simple as that. And that's what I've been doing for years. And it's literally these formats I've been doing. So I'll look through social media platforms and find the people that I think who's doing work. So I'll scroll through DJ Mag, find a story that I think represents me best, and find a writer. From that, I will search on Hunter for the formatting of the email and then use LinkedIn to find their full name. And then from that, I will email them. and it's kind of like a 4 3 step process sometimes. And you kind of get a feel for what what writers or kind of what platforms you will align to. And it's something that I realize that you can be a very commercial photographer and photograph for publications and magazines like Vice, like Dazed, or you can be a lot more broad street and photograph for like the Times and the Guardian. But that's a very different angle of work. And if you look at the work you're producing, you can kind of align yourself with that magazine or that broad street paper. If that makes sense. I hope it does. Is everyone okay with this so far? Great. And now we're coming to the like the thick of it. What to say again. So what I first said, keep it simple, stupid. Um, I would start with an intro and I'll start with saying who I am. Those two bits are normally one line as itself, one line. This is it. And then what do I want? I would say, oh, my name is Yushy. I'm a photographer based in London. I would like to cover this. I would like to cover this story, this party going on in Chiswick, and here's a link to my work, and I can write. You can offer them something back, something that is your USP, saying, "Oh, I'm a photographer based in London. I specialize in dance music. I've been taking photos of dance music for 10 years. This is what I can offer you, a unique perspective of dance music." Bam. And then I think I have it here. Did I? So sorry, that will be to, pitching a story or an art, like pitching for a commission with a story in mind. So this is kind of what I will send out loaded as a photographer. But then if you already have a body of work existing, imagining if you photographed a community of roller skaters in London, this is kind of how I would format it. So again, I would start with the intro and who you are. And again, this would be very short because you want to come to the meat of your story is your work and why it's interesting for Days, why is it interesting for The Guardian, and how it's unique for them and how it fits their brand and core values. And then always something I would do is when I'm attaching work, I would never attach it to the email. I'd always make a separate domain so I can host it off the email. So it's first of all, no one, it's not when someone opens up the email and they see you've attached an image, if they click on the image and it takes them more than 3 or 4 seconds to load, I think you've already lost that job. If you have an email on a Canva link like this, where they can click and it opens straight into Safari or Chrome, and they can just scroll through your images that is not hosted, they don't have to download anything, then you're more likely to keep them in tune because they need to then reply to you. So keep it small, keep images really accessible for phones, especially phones, because a lot of the time, even myself, I find myself replying to email on a phone, which isn't great, and not great at all. But it's something that you have to be really aware about. Not everyone will will have the capacity to reply on the desktop. And if your email is not formatted well enough for a phone and is a big body of text, that's very off-putting to a lot of people. So it's a very annoying issue, but you have to keep it short, keep it sweet, and kind of keep them eagerly to reply to you because they want to find out more. And if they ask for more images, send them higher res images on Google Chrome. Does that all make sense to you guys? Great, thank you. So this is This is what I sent to DJ Mag, and I found his name, Eon, and his email from that. And this is a pitch that I sent to DJ Mag. This was a few months ago, but it's fits the same formatting. Hi, my name's Yushy. I'm a London-based photographer. That's my intro and bio in 1 year. And what I've done is a 5 year long project on the rave scene. That is everything that I've shared about myself in 2 sentences. And then what I added here is I really appreciate your work about exploring club closers, which then tells the writer, the person I'm emailing, that I have gone into depth of who I'm talking to. I've done my research. I'm not just cold emailing. I know why I'm emailing that person because his writing suits my photos. So there's more kind of there's more likeness for them to reply back to me. It's rather than a cold email. It's like calling somebody and saying, "Oh, I really like your red shoes you wore yesterday," without being weird about how did you know I was wearing red shoes, if that makes sense. And then it goes straight into my work. My project is this, and you can view my images via the link below, which then takes them off to a separate tab. But then it does then show it I kind of sorry it then shows people to come back to me and like contact hopefully reply to me. Yes, sorry, does that make sense? Yeah. Ooh. And getting commissioned is kind of a bit of a issue, which it was 2 slides back. But again, getting commissions is quite hard. Even to this day, it's really, really hard. If I have like a good idea and I kind of want to go about it via a publication route, I would I could send like an email out, like a commissioned email out to 3 or 4 publications a day. And I would say it's a matter like first come, first serve. Whoever is interested first, then I will jump on. And I used to do that for years. Like I would send 18 emails out a day just to cold email out people, different departments of the same company, different routes of the same story as well, come forward to different departments. And then slowly but surely you kind of realize that it's about really refining who you're talking to. So making sure that you're not emailing a beauty editor about football because then they probably don't know the sports department of a company. If it's a big company or if it's big enough, they only know the people that is around the beauty or health categories of their work. But then if you want to do a story about sports, find the sports editor. If you want to do a story about lifestyle, find a lifestyle editor. And then again, it's like who are you, what you're doing, what your work is, and how it fits a publication, and then give them incentive to say, which I didn't write here, um, uh, like the email with Eon, is I loved your work about this particular thing. Show your research because it's very easy to send those 18 emails out a day. But what's really hard is then to say to that one person is I really like this one particular thing you did. I would love to get coffee sometime and talk about what I'm doing and kind of give them incentive to do like a physical meet maybe. And again, in a similar sense. So I just do that twice. I'm going to skip this one. Apologies. And in a sense, now it's your turn. Um, I always say social medias are key to find people. I think once you have the person's email or once you have the person's name, you can use a platform like Hunter to find their contact information. And after that, you can use that then to frame an email about work that you have or that you want to shoot to a company that you think best suits your work. I'm gonna blast through these because I think it's very important to kind of be very aware about how to follow up on leads because it's very easy to send an email and not kind of chase it. But when I have when I used to send emails, I would be kind of chasing them up like 3 or 4 times. And then I'm looking when I was making this, I was looking back at the way I was emailing, and I'm like, oh, this is terrible. No wonder why I didn't get these jobs. No wonder why no one replied to me. But I think it's very, very easy to kind of fall into this mindset that if someone doesn't reply, it means they hate me. But until I started working in the position of one of these editors, I was getting like 20 emails before 9 a.m. and I would just have a panic attack on my desk, which is great. And you can kind of gauge what works or what doesn't in the space of like 3 or 4 sentences of a project you get. So it's fine if someone doesn't reply. First of all, it's fine, but chasing them is another story. So it's always good to be polite. People are busy, like I said. People just kind of can miss something. It's very easy to forget someone emailed you and then have an email back loaded. I would say after 4 days, but I would not. I never email people on a Monday or Friday because Monday people are too busy from emails on a Friday, and Friday people are too excited for the weekend. So Tuesday and Thursdays and Wednesdays are my go-to. And add value to your email. If you're bumping somebody saying, "Oh, just checking in," if you're photographing an active project and you're chasing somebody for a reply, you can reply to them. You say, "Oh, hi, person, I need a reply from. I've just photographed this person as part of my project. What do you think? It's very similar to this thing that you're currently talking about on your Instagram. It'd be great to hear your thoughts." Or kind of change the pitch. Like if you see something that's topical online and it kind of can you can kind of bend it to your work, kind of reference that. Again, like this is what I've been saying throughout. Personalize each message. So don't don't make it on MailChimp. Send an email using their first name and reference something they've shot, reference something they've photographed, reference like what a brand has done and how it relates to something they've done. Because it's a lot more time you're putting in, but the payoff is a lot more kind of personal. You feel a lot closer to these people, and it's very easy to not do this and send mass emails on MailChimp and like a mailer to like 900 people in the space of a minute. But when you reply to somebody and you reference something, or when someone messages me and they say, "Oh, I like this thing you did 9 years ago," you're like, "Oh, someone's done their homework," and that's very honorable, very kind of them. So these personalized messages always kind of last. Like I said, 2 to 3 follow-ups is quite normal. Like sometimes I've been chasing people like 9 or 10 times, and they would reply every other reply email, and I'm like, I know they're interested. I know there's something bubbling there, but if I lose track after this many emails, I feel like it's a lost cause. So it's something to gauge yourself. In fact, if you see their replies as engageful and positive, then I would always reply back with intent to do something physical, like a meet or a call. But if their replies are very blunt and short, then I would kind of call it right there in safe of your own sanity and your own kind of personal, yeah, completely your own sanity. But yeah, this is what I kind of would do for pitching with to publications and magazines. Does anyone have any questions about that?
This is Ellie, just to say that so far we don't have any questions, but again, to encourage everyone to share their own questions via the chat, and I will be addressing these to Yushi on a first come, first serve basis. So Yushy, it's back to you now.
Cool. Thank you for that, Ellie. Um, and for pitching with brands is a very, very different scenario. There's so many different routes to pitch to brands. But before I kind of delve into the rest of the doc, there's like there's so many different routes to pitch to brands, but there's kind of two different ways you can pitch to brands, and that is via an agency sense where you get approached as a photographer, as a creative photographer, to create a treatment for a brand. And what these agencies will do, a creative agency, they'll say to you, um, the England team are thinking of doing a campaign about racism. They love your work that you did here. Would you consider something? Would you create a treatment for us? And this treatment is a pitch essentially, and that pitch is you creating a whole PowerPoint doc, and I'll show you this at the end, um, about how you understand their vision and the brand's vision and the end goal that the creative agency and the brand is telling you. That's all. So they want you to understand that you know what you're talking about. And the other end of pitching is to brands is that you do something a completely cold pitch where it's something that I've never done before because I find it quite terrifying. You go with the expectation of knowing the brand. So if you pitch to Adidas, um, like a cold pitch, it's called shooting a spec ad, and this spec ad is you kind of create a whole fake advertisement for a brand like Adidas. You shoot a whole campaign in the style that they would, using artists and makeup artists and models that you know, and you kind of create it all in the dark and using the email technique I told you earlier. You email contacts at Adidas that you could find, and again, pitching to a brand like Adidas or any kind of company is a bit different because, firstly, email marketing or emails kind of come at you differently because it's an external email hitting an internal email. So normally they could just hit your spam straight away, but there's a chance that they could find it and could reply to you saying they like the advert, they like the way you photographed it, and they like the tenacity that you've shot an advert for them. And then hopefully they can give you work back instead of stealing all your content. But alternatively, you could just post the spec ad to social media and then talk about how you done it and why you done it. And that could then lead to more work as well.
Thank you, Yushi. Just to quickly share two questions that came
Yep.
through on the chat. Mika is asking in the pitching email, are you adding a link to the portfolio page or a link to your Canvas deck, etc.? I think you addressed that.
So yes. So I would add something like a Canva or a platform that they can view the images with one click of a link. If they click a link and then it takes them to a login page, I've already lost it. So I will put a link to like a Canva or Google Drive, just a place where it has the images to view easily on a phone and on a computer. And then I would sign it with my name and then attach my portfolio at the end. I wouldn't even reference my portfolio being there because if they like your work enough, they would then click off reply and then check out your work. If you then add two links and they click your website first and you're not showing your website, you're showing your work that you want to pitch to them, then they're like, oh, this photographer is photographing food and they're emailing me about karate. Uh, oh, what am I gonna do? And then what they miss is the link. So I would always include that one link there so it's obvious and clear. Too many links may confuse people, so keep it really concise. That one link to Canva or Google Drive that takes them offsite, that shows the images, then your bio, or you sign it, then put your website underneath your name. Easy.
Thank you, Yushi. We have one more question, another question, but I will be addressing that at the Q&A. So it's
Hmm.
over to you and back to pitching.
Great. Um, where was that? Yes, so like on a spec ad, this is exactly what I would see is I would research the brand first, know that Adidas will only show Adidas products. If I'm shooting Adidas and someone has Nike socks and the socks are showing, that's not a good sign. That shows like really clear you don't understand the brand. You understand that there's two clashing companies there. You understand that Adidas shoots something with this ethos, and their ethos is this, and this, and you put that into your images. That shows you understanding the visual language, shows you understand the audience. And look at the recent stuff these brands do, and then kind of compare it to how you can do something based on that, making it your own. And like present a clear idea, of course, like it when especially when you write a physical pitch or a written pitch, it's really easy to kind of go like really, really big with the pitch, saying, I want this and I want that, but be really concise as well. Like keep it simple, stupid, as I'm going to say one more time. Um, it's really easy to get away with thoughts, but when you're talking about a pitch to a brand or a spec ad and you're shooting a spec ad, it makes sure that if you're photographing Levi's, for instance, create a simple space and a story around that, why that brand is integrated in a particular community in London, for instance, and explain that value and how it grows with the brand and how it adds value to the brand. And again, like I said, I keep it concise. Um, Something I said throughout. Make it short enough that it you don't lose attention, but also uh, kind of visually engaging enough that it retains attention, if that makes sense. Yes, it does. Yes, so this is what we're talking about, making a treatment to a brand. And like I said, the two-ish ways to kind of pitch to a brand. You can either go through the way that I suggest through emails where you find people at Adidas or Levi's or Fred Perry, and you pitch them a treatment, which I'll show you, or you get pitched to. And when you get pitched to, making a treatment is a lot of pressure. Like the stuff I'm going to show you now. I got contacted by in a creative agency who are doing a job for the England campaign, saying I got selected and I got rounded up, um, which I didn't even know I was selected in the first place. And they said they wanted to see me a treatment, so they sent me the brief, and I read the brief, and they were like, "Could you make a treatment by the end of the day?" And they sent me the treatment. They sent me the brief at 4 p.m. And I essentially had 3-ish hours to make this pitch, which then led me to photograph the job, which was the week after. So it's very, very uh, fast turnover sometimes. Like you could get an email Monday morning and then asked to shoot something by Thursday if you win a treatment. Or alternatively, I've made treatments before, and sometimes you would see your work, your ideas and work go into the treatment, and then you not photographing that. There's a lot of annoying nuance to these platforms, but here we go. So start with a big idea and then kind of sum it off as you go along. So much like this platform, this pitch, this my presentation, I started with a big idea, I think, Kiss, and it gets, and I talk about it as throughout and show purpose. Like the big thing uh, that these creative agencies and these brands want to understand is that you know what you're talking about, and they know that you understand what the brand wants, because England wanted an anti-racism campaign, and then when I pitched to them an anti-racism campaign. They were like, yeah, you understand what I'm talking about. And I just repeated everything they told me in the treatment, in the brief, sorry, and I repeated that in the treatment. And as smart as that, as smart as I sound, I just copied and pasted most of it. Just don't tell them that, please. Thank you. And again, like when I was making this treatment for England and for EE, I was looking at the audiences, I was looking at the colors, I was looking at the visual language, and I was kind of making sure that that matched even the font that they used on their recent campaign. I was copying that, adding it to the Canva, making sure that I knew that they knew that I knew what I was talking about. And again, like keep it simple. That's the last time I say it, I swear. And here it is. So this is what won me a a national campaign for the England squad. So of course I started off um, with a hello. I kind of go through the keywords that they talked about in the brief, which was natural, candid, football, social justice, which were the keywords that I saw that they kept on talking about in the brief. And then in a way, you have to talk about it in a sense that kind of is is very plain English that I'm excited for to create an emotive portrait series, almost like you're because you haven't got a job yet, but you're talking about it as you're so sure about what you're going to get without being hubris or overconfident. You're just very certain. And again, very similar to this, has an agenda with the vision, approach, lighting, scale, composition, how I work, visual references, and experience and set, and then the team I want to consider. So this is the vision and language with all visual images. The colors match the branding as well. The font matches the branding. It kind of goes through the clear idea that I know what I'm talking about and the clear end goal straight away. The approach, the approach and how I'm going to talk about how I'm going to photograph these things. And I'm referencing the tag, which is the byline of the brief they gave me. And then literally all of this, I copied and pasted it in and out and just like kind of referenced it to use like different more camera techniques using a wide angle lens to extravagantly showcase the feelings of the subjects, which doesn't make sense, but it kind of makes sense in the grand scheme of things, like talking about the players and how I'm going to work with them. And so much so that in a lot of the briefs I give and I get, sorry, I talk about the lenses I'm going to use and the lighting I'm going to use because what the agency wants to know is how you work with, or how can you work with given a rainy day and you need to make it look like a bright day. And I say, oh, I'm going to use like a constant light because there's no guarantee that where we're going to be. I'm going to make sure that we use these angles and these lenses, like this. How I'm gonna push people into the frame, showing different elements of different lenses and how that looks as all of these are portraits, all of these using flash. Um, and I talk about the lenses as well and go into as much detail as you can that kind of definitely like talks about each part of the treatment and a bit about myself. And I put about myself in the end because they want to hear as much as possible about the details of how you work. And then hearing about me, sorry. Um, and of course it's almost like an artist bio, which is really always hard to kind of write. Um, and it kind of reading back on it makes me cringe a bit. And then some visual examples of how I work and how it kind of captures the joy and like youthfulness of the people involved. and more visual references of like all portraits as well, all stuff I've taken and experienced on set, showing that I have come from a background of experience which wasn't much at the time, but I kind of make the little experience I've done make it look bigger and more concise, and I just try to make it look as wide and sharp as possible. And the end goal and how I kind of want, again, like copying this verbatim, this first paragraph almost into, or from the brief into the treatment, how I want that, how I want how I want it to look. What's my end goal? Why am I doing it? And yeah, that this treatment won me two jobs, kind of this format, sorry. Uh yeah, which is excellent. And again, doing more research into the crew of people I've worked with and will work with again, and how I work with them. If if you get approached by an agency and they want you to work with 12 people, but they realize that you're mean to six of them, you you probably won't get that job again. Or if they want you to work with a crew of two people and you work really well with those two people and everyone is very cohesive, they would want to work with you all again because there's no hassle, there's no issues. I remember when I first got on set for this job, the agency said, the photographer that shot this last, we had to ask to leave because they refused to walk in the rain, and they had to get they've made us get an umbrella for them. And I was like, that's crazy, because at the time I was in shorts photographing in the rain, shorts and a t-shirt in the rain in a castle in Wales, and I was like, I'm happy just to be here. And then I got really sick after, of course, but they want to see you and how easy you are to work with. If you're an ego, if you have any sort of ego to you, they kind of they're put off by that. They want a easy, simple job. And then yeah, and brief. Yeah,
Fantastic.
thank you.
Thank you so much, Yushi, for sharing and using concrete examples from your experience. We do have a few questions already, just to say I loved what you said about topicality, relevance, and yeah, as much as cold emailing can be disheartening, if the follow-ups, as you said, are done with intention and through referencing, perhaps more positive outcomes can be succeeded. One question from Misa. What kind of editors do we reach out to if you are a narrative style or documentary style photographer?
Well, documentary style work is very similar to what I do. And I see how I can do my documentary style work in a more kind of fast way, because documentary is very slow. If you're a documentary style photographer, there's platforms like ID magazine, Dazed again, Days magazine, that you can reach out to, uh, and saying, I'm a photographer. I'm looking. Do you need any coverage uh, at London Fashion Week in a documentary style way? This is what I do, and it's kind of like rephrasing the way you talk about yourself and talk about work, because I can say, oh, I'm a documentary photographer, but I can photograph your party in a documentary way. I can photograph your festival in a documentary way. But instead of saying I'm a repertoire documentary photographer, I'm a photographer that photographs in this style, and I can adapt to any place in a documentary way. I can photograph music festivals in a documentary sense. But contacting editors, I would go from like the digital editor, the picture editor. If you go to LinkedIn and look at Dazed, you can see like everyone's job title. And if someone's like a culture writer, culture editor, or a arts photography editor, then you can reach out to them, because then you could reference the website itself, like Dazed, and see who's commissioning the work, because if you look at the magazine, the physical magazine, you can see a picture story that you really like, and you can say, oh, this was shot by this person, but edited by this person. And then you look at the front of the magazine, and it will literally just have all of their emails. That's how obvious it is, which is nuts, which it annoys me sometimes. Because then you could say, oh, this person commissioned this documentary party and their emails here. I'm just going to email them now. So editors, deputy editors, culture editors, anything that remotely relates to your work or could relate to your work, you should contact.
Thank you, Yushi. The next question is, do you think having a social media platform is important to get jobs and network from brands? I struggle to post my work due to anxiety, but have a website which I tend to share.
Um, so from what I've experienced, I think social media is there's like two ends of it, which is really, really bad. And if you post too much and you get like a big following, you can kind of be lost in the source, and people kind of won't contact you because they think you're too big for them, which has happened to me, which is crazy. Or you could have you could be considered like an underground talent where you post occasionally when you feel that's right, when you feel ready, and the people that will find your work will see, oh my God, I've just found an artist that has this many followers on Instagram and they're producing this work. We should get on them before they get so big. And that's how I see it. I think it's almost like finding an underground rapper. Like when you find a rapper that's really niche and underground, you're like, I kind of don't want anyone to hear about this. And then the Americans start listening to it, and then you're like, oh, it's ruined now. And it's like that end, it's a sweet spot of becoming, I guess, getting those followers. When you get too many followers, people can kind of consider you a different photographer. But the slowly but surely posting kind of really cements yourself into being underground and niche and kind of like off the radar. And that's what's considered cool. And a lot of people are saying they're looking for that talent that's off the radar, that's fresh and without that experience. But if your keywording is right on your website and you do have something on your social media, then you're fine.
Thank you, Yushi, for responding. There is a question about whether there is anywhere specific to find example of treatments.
So not really, in fact, not really without paying a lot of money for it. Like
Mm.
the treatment that I've showed you, I made and kind of had to guess what they wanted. I was given categories in the brief, and I used that to adapt into something that I now know that works. And it's who you are, what you're doing, and thanking the people reading the treatment that you're there. Make it almost like a pleasurable experience for someone to read. Make it look visually fun and cool. Make it creative if you have time, and show them you know the brief. Annoyingly, all the treatments that are available online to download and are examples are either very basic or very expensive to download. Like when I was looking at treatment platforms, there's places selling like a treatment pack for like $179, which is ridiculous. And this could be you could buy it in the sense that you would get a job and then you could spend that money and then you can never hear from these people again. So it's very risky sometimes. But there's platforms now like Pinterest which have really good treatment options. So I'd always look at and Canva, in fact.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Yushi. Any more questions? We have only a couple of minutes just to share some lovely comments about thank you for breaking the process and ideas down so clearly. A massive thank you to Yushi for sharing your experience and practical information. We will also be sharing the recording of this photo tip session with you once it is edited. And just to say that it has been also lovely to see some of the foundation's volunteers joining us tonight, as well as some of our alumni and some of our regular participants from events that we do on site at our North Greenwich studio. Please do stay connected. Follow us on LinkedIn, on Instagram. And if you have any questions, again, feel free to email us at our events email. I will be adding, of course, Yushi's website and social media. And we hope that you have a lovely rest of your week and a great evening. And thank you so much for joining on this quite grey week. If you are joining us from London, you can see upcoming photo tips talks on our events webpage. And we do update the page quite regularly. So keep an eye, just take care, and hope you have a lovely evening and rest of your week.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.